ubiquitous kind of thing, that is, it is present in other branches of physics as well. That is, you'll see this in electrostatics as well. So what it says, that when we have two or more disturbance, that is, we can simply call as waves. Someone is trying to join, maybe. No. Okay, when we have two or more disturbances, that is waves arrive traveling, and if we want to check its effect at a particular point, then the resultant displacement would be the vector sum of displacement of individual waves. Okay, very in simple words, the resultant displacement would be either sum or difference, depending on whether the waves are traveling in the same direction or in the opposite direction. And last day we also saw that we can always represent wave by an equation like y equals to a sine omega t or cos omega t. Okay, sine omega t plus or minus phi. Phi is the initial phase. Okay, so suppose it is the displacement of one wave. If we have another wave, we will have another displacement equation. The resultant would be the vector sum of that. And forget about vector sum here. We just consider more importantly the direction, whether the waves are coming from the same, they were traveling in the same direction or they're in the opposite direction. And we said, discuss what is interference of light. It is nothing but the modification of distribution of light intensity, where in the region where the two light waves are superposed. Had there been only one light wave, there wouldn't have been any modification. But due to the overlap or superposition of two or more light waves, we'll see on the, if we put a screen in the region of superposition, we would be seeing patterns like this. Bright, dark, bright, dark. Here the bright region is red. It depends on the color that you are using. And yeah, from here the discussion for the day will begin. That suppose two waves are interfering. If at some point we are getting brightness like these points or these locations, then we would say that the interference is constructive. That is, these are regions of maximum amplitude, and intensity of light is proportional to the square of the amplitude, right? So we can easily say where intensity is more, amplitude has to be more. And see the regions in between them. This picture has a very poor contrast. I'll just try to show a good picture. The regions you see between two bright bands, these regions, the intensity of light is minimum. How we can say it is minimum? If you compare with the brightness, you can see these are the areas of darkness. So where the intensity is minimum, we can say with the same analogy, the amplitude is also minimum. Okay, can anyone tell me why we are calling this thing as resultant? Why is it called resultant? Any idea?
So because I guess from the two slits the waves converge. That's why.
Yeah, this is the result, the final amplitude or the final result that we are looking. Okay, this is the contribution of the, due to the two or more waves that who are superposing, or we can say who are interfering. And these regions, we'll say here the waves have interfered destructively, or it is called destructive interference. Very easy to remember. When there's destructive interference, there is darkness or minimum intensity, or constructive, there is maximum intensity. And this topic, if some of you were absent in coherence class, you may not be able to understand, but I'll still try to make you understand in a very lucid way. So now the question is that is it possible that we can have any light source, any two or more light source, and they will interfere? Is it the only criteria to be a source of light for interference, or is there anything else? So see, interference has to be clearly observable. Like suppose there is interference of light, but when you are casting on the screen, you are unable to distinguish between the dark and bright regions. Or it is very fluctuating. The interference pattern is not sustained. Sustained means something that stays for long, which is stable. We use a very common term called sustainable development. In EVS, you might have come across that term. So the interference pattern has to be sustained. Else it would be like it interfered. By the time you were able to bring the screen or cast it on the screen, again it got vanished. Okay, it's not like that. It should be stable and it should be clearly visible. That means the contrast should be very good. Like you can see this picture, these two pictures, the candles. You can see the contrast is very good. Now there are many ways to understand what is contrast. I can tell you in this case, the background you see, the background is perfectly dark. That brings out the bright picture. Okay, so likewise in the interference slit, we'll try to make the dark bands as much perfectly dark as possible. Okay, it should not be like the bright bands are orange in color and the dark bands are very faded orange. Are you getting my point? I hope everyone understand what do you mean by good contrast.
So
Okay, so simply when you are taking this picture, just imagine this picture of this candle, these two candles. Had the background been a bit fade, what color I should say, yeah, the faded version of these flames, it wouldn't have been so beautiful, so clear. You can see the gap between the two candles is clearly visible. That is only possible if your contrast is very good. Then you can distinguish between the two candles. When we'll be studying more in details, we'll see that this distinction between two consecutive pattern elements is very essential. So in order to get these two things, we cannot use independent sources of light. That means we cannot use two separate candles. We cannot use two separate or more than two separate light bulbs. Okay, you might be thinking that, okay, I'll just keep this two. Now what will happen? Waves from here, it will come somewhere. Waves from here will also go. Now they will interfere at a point. Then I will get interference. Right? And if that was the case, then we wouldn't have required slits. I mean, why on earth would I go for this complicated thing? Isn't it? Just replace everything, keep a source S1, keep a source S2, they will interfere. But in reality, it is seen that they may interfere, but that interference won't be sustained or visible. And they may not interfere. That is also possible. Why? Because for interference phenomena to occur, the two waves or two or more waves which are interfering, they must have a constant phase relation between them. We'll see at the end of the chapter, I'll be doing a numerical problem where you can see that why incoherent or non-coherent sources cannot give out interference. So what we need to have that the two waves must have a constant phase relation. Maybe one is lagging the other by an angle 60 degree. That should be like that throughout the experiment. Is it clear, everyone? What do you mean by being coherent? Simply there should be a constant phase relation between the two waves. Now how can I create? The only choice is I have to take one source of light. From there I have to create multiple sources of light. So this is the choice. Clear anyone? Any doubt? Please ask. Okay, don't type. I can't look into the screen. Anyone is having any doubt? Please put forward.
No, sir.
Okay. How can we make coherent sources? Now it looks kind of black magic that I have one source of, I have one candle. Can I create two candles out of that? No, it's not about creating candles. It is about creating sources of light. Now it may be puzzling. How it can be done? Two ways are there. At least by your syllabus, we have two ways. First way is that I have a beam of light. I will allow it to fall on two closely separated holes. When I say hole, it's a very fine opening. Okay, not a big hole. And what will happen? Now try to imagine the situation. Water is flowing and there is a dam or wall, something stopping the water from coming to the other side. Now if there are two holes on the wall, what will happen? Water will come from there, isn't it? And the two flows, they are very much probable to interfere. So likewise here, what will happen when you are passing a beam of light through two very closely spaced holes? Okay, the holes should not be very much apart. Then the two beams which will emanate, they will interfere. Now this process is called the diffusion of wavefront, where I am getting two or more coherent sources. This is our first chapter's discussion. Okay, we have one chapter only according to the truncated syllabus. First step would be with division of wavefront. Second one is you have a beam. You have to exploit the reflection property of light. What you will do? The beam, you will first make it to reflect on reflecting surfaces, and the reflected beams will interfere. This process is called the division of amplitude. Now this thing may not be very much, you may not be very much okay with this as far as the intuition is concerned, because we never studied how we can do these things by reflection of light, isn't it? We just know that reflection means when light is falling on a reflecting surface, a good portion of it is returning back to the same surface. Okay, but no, reflection can also help in interference. So the second process is important in the second part of the chapter. Fine. So now this is the main topic. So this guy is Thomas Young, and his experiment I discussed in the first class also, that many science historians and physicists, they say that this is the one of the top 10 experiments ever done by human. Okay, humankind's top 10 experiments, one of them is Young's experiment. One thing, let me clarify, he didn't use a bulb. This was done in the 1600s, I think. Sorry, 1800s and 1801 maybe. And we didn't have bulb back then. So in the original experiment, he used sunlight. Just to show what is the idea, you have a source of light. Now you know that when you have a source of light, light is emanating in all directions, isn't it? Now what I have to do, I need a perfect beam of light from there. Just see here, I'm using the word beam. Okay, that means I will allow this source, the light from this source, to pass through a very small slit. Like if everyone is sitting in front of the window, if you are looking outside, you can see very bright light. Now if you can somehow cover your eyes with your palm and just let light come from a very small gap between your fingers, okay, that is what is being done here. Then the light that will come, that is a very fine source of light. Okay, fine beam. Then this beam is allowed to fall on and see, when there is this source, then you know that this will act as a point source, and by Huygens principle we know that the wavefront should be moving forward like this. Now the wavefronts will hit this double slit, two slits separated by a very small distance. What will happen? Again, from here sources will be occurring. One source is created from slit 1, another is created at slit 2, and they are giving out disturbances. They will interfere, and you can see on the screen somewhere you will get bright, somewhere you will get dark. Clear this thing? Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is the original setup where he used sunlight, and we all know that sun is, we can take it is infinitely large away from us, though the distance is not infinite, we can calculate it. The meaning is that it is more away from any possible light source around us, isn't it? This is the farthest light source that we can have. So we say that the waves coming from the sun are parallel. Parallel waves means plane wavefront. So you can see plane wavefronts are hitting, and in order for the wave to propagate further, what will happen? It will give out spherical wavefronts. Again, here two obstructions. Each obstruction will act as, you can think, as one source, and they will be giving out waves. They will interfere, and you will get alternate regions of dark, bright, dark, bright, dark, bright on the screen. Before I go to the analytic treatment, I want to show you a video. I shared it last day also. So Vertexium is a YouTube channel. Okay, you can subscribe it. I don't get paid for endorsing the channel. Okay, just if you want to just in an interesting manner, you can enjoy this channel. Okay, so is it visible, everyone? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this guy, I forgot his name. Not this guy.
Sorry, you have muted the video.
Yeah, this guy. This guy here. He was a well qualified academician in the States, and what he's trying to do, he's going to carry out this Young's experiment, the original one, using sunlight. So he has made a cardboard box, okay, and he went to the park and was asking people that this one, okay. So he was asking that what do you expect to see if light rays are, sun rays are made to fall through this small hole. Obviously, not everyone is a physicist out there, so they just gave their own thinking that yeah, I will see that bright light only. Okay. Yeah, this is the original book, Optics. I think I made some mistake last day. This is written by Huygens, I think. Isn't it Optics? I'll just check it. I think Huygens, the original book. Yeah, this is water waves. So if someday you can go here and see the book in the museum, just click pictures and send me the original version. Okay, so now the experiment, yeah, so you can see it's a huge box. You can also do yourself. You need not to create a box also. You can get it. Yeah, this is the slit. Okay, very fine gap is here. It won't be this one. You see this one. Just let me pause it. Yeah, can you see two small straight, fine straight lines? Just next to his thumb. Can you see it? Yeah, this is the slit. See how fine it is. how fine the gap is. It's not like a broad piece of, you know, thing slitted. Yeah. So yeah, there's the slit, and you'll be putting it here. Check the video later with audio. Yeah, now the funny thing, people are made to see what is happening inside. Obviously, this has been conducted way before the pandemic. So light is falling here, sunlight, and from here you can see. If you put your eye here, see. Obviously, it is not white light. It is not even the dispersion of light. Okay, it's not that all the colors are arranged in the rainbow picture manner. Can you see some brightness areas? Can you understand it is interference pattern?
Yes, sir.
But is it as good as the picture that I showed you on the PowerPoint? No. Why? This is what we call poor contrast. And here the reason for this poor contrast is the using of polychromatic light, a light which is made up of constituent colors. This video is especially for Aarti and Ajit. They were absent in the last class. Rest of you may feel bored a little bit, but still, it's a revision. Now he will explain this phenomena with water waves. Okay. So what he is doing? See, this thing you can make at home. Just a stick with a ball or something. Now he would be tapping one of them, I think, initially. See, can you tell me what kind of wavefront is generated here? What kind of waves are generated? Aarti? What is the wave? Wave shape of the wave or wavefront? Yes, Aarti, what is the shape of the wavefront? Aarti, Ajit, anyone?
Circular.
Yeah, yeah. In 2 dimension, it is circular, spherical. Actually, yeah, good. Circular waves. So now see what will happen. This one now he is making two sources of disturbance. See, now they're interfering here. Now carefully look at some regions. This view won't help us much. Just see here, some region looks like straight lines. It's like sun ray of light coming, isn't it? See these regions. You know, see this one, this one, this one, this one. Is it visible? So here we can feel that something is similar in these regions. Likewise, the regions in between them, there is also something similar happening. Are you getting it, Aarti and Ajit? Okay. And obviously, you have to observe bit away from the two sources, little bit away. Now see, so if we think this as sources of light, see, you can see some regions, these regions are giving darkness, these regions are giving brightness. Can you feel it from this picture? These portions will give you brightness, this will give you darkness. Is there anything? Yeah, see, now this much better. Or the other way around, I might have messed up. I mean, some one region, yeah, these regions are bright, these are dark, but the darkness region is not perfectly dark because of the overlapping of the constituent colors of sunlight. But obviously, this experiment confirm one thing, that there is a change in the intensity pattern, isn't it? Had there been no slit or nothing happening, we would have seen simply the spot of sunlight. Is it clear, everyone? Any doubt with the experiment? Any doubt? Anything you want to ask? Anything you want to suggest? Anything?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Let us look into it. Analytical means we'll do analysis. We'll just break down the thing into small chunks and simply we'll just do some mathematics. So I've simplified the setup. What I have a small slit. You know what a slit looks like. I just showed in the video. That's why if you are looking from the top, not the side, if you are taking the top view, it will look like this, and there is a small gap, small hole. And I have another double slit here. Okay, another what should I say? Obstruction to light, which has two slits. But more importantly, this distance, they're equidistant from S. That is S1 is equal to S2. I'm sorry, I just made some mistake here. It should be 2. S1, S2 are the two slits. Okay. I don't know why the font changed here. Just a second. Yeah, that's fine. So these two slits have to be equidistant from S. That is S1 should be equal to SS2. That is how the construction is done. And the third one is the screen. Fine. So what we want to do, we want to study the effect of this interference at a particular point P on the screen. This point is P. I have kept the P on this side so that it doesn't look overcrowded. And C is what? C is the, we'll explain what is C. It is the central bright fringe. We'll see it very soon. Everyone is okay with the setup? And these things I have drawn, these represent the wavefronts or the disturbances coming out. Clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay. Now the main thing. So suppose I'm calling the first slit as S1. So what we are doing here, we are doing division of wavefront. That is, this one is now behaving as one source of disturbance. Disturbance means simply it is giving out light waves. Okay, and a wave has what? A wave has an amplitude as well as a phase part. Okay, amplitude, simply you can think like there are two parts, a spatial part and a temporal part. A part that has to do with space, like the amplitude thing, and a part that has to do with time. I think you all agree with me on this. Any wave will have these two things, an amplitude and a phase part. Is it clear? Are you okay with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in physics, as days will come, you will understand that this e to the power I omega t term, it is very much useful to represent something which has a amplitude and a phase. Okay. I think you have done the complex number thing in CC1. Do you do it? R equals to, sorry, Z equals to R e to the power I theta kind of thing. Have you done these things in your first sem? Did you do this? Complex number can be represented as an amplitude term and a phase term.
No, sir.
You must have done this thing in your class 11 then. It may not be in CC1 syllabus. I'm just asking if you have done yourself or not. Are you not familiar with? I think you are familiar with this thing that a complex number is written by Z, A plus imaginary number I, B. You know this kind of notation. We can write a complex number like this. You know this.
Yes, sir.
Then you might have done this thing also, that this thing can be written represented as represented by amplitude term and a phase term. Remember this thing from your school days? It was in algebra, as far as I am concerned.
Sir, don't remember, sir.
Do you have your 11 book at home, everyone?
I have, sir, mine.
Okay. Rest of you, if you don't have, don't. There's nothing to worry. Just go through some YouTube videos. You will understand. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you, that I'm not writing a wave like cos or sine kind of thing. Those things are within this e to the power I omega t itself. We'll see it. So a more expected representation of a wave or disturbance is like this, where it will have a amplitude term and a phase term, e to the power I omega t. Omega is the angular frequency. Fine. Now let us assume that S1p. What is S1p? The distance of this slit from the point where we want to see. This distance let us assume as x1. And the distance of the slit S2 from the point P is, say, x2. Just an assumption. Okay. So now what is happening? Just take the first slit. Light is coming from here. I mean, waves are generated here. Forget about S2. Okay. Now the waves will be traveling, they're traveling forward, and they have reached P at a time, say after time T or something. So there will be a phase difference due to this one. The phase which was at the source and the phase which is at P, they will now be different. Do you know this thing? Phase difference, path difference, this relation? It was in class 12, optics, physical optics. Are you
Yes,
familiar
sir.
with this thing? Phase difference is related to path difference. Path difference is what? Simply the path that the wave will travel. And the relation is that phase difference is 2 pi by lambda times of path difference. Okay. It can be also explained. You can try yourself. Why is it 2 pi by lambda? Nothing difficult. So 2 pi by lambda is nothing. It's a constant. We take it as k. So see, this was the disturbance when it was at S1. When it has moved to this point P, what it will look like? It will look like e to the power I omega t, and this phase term will be subtracted. If you think, if you wanted to write this one as, say, A1 cos omega t, then this would have been A1 cos omega t minus kx1. This kind of omega t minus kx1 thing is very common in waves. You have studied it also, standing waves. So the thing is that at this point, the disturbance due to S1 will now look like this, and similarly at the point P, the disturbance from S2 will be looking like this. I've written this y1, this one as y2. Are you all noting it down? That's why I made this detailed PPT. Please note it down yourself with me, okay? This is available on Moodle also, but still try to do it with me. So can anyone tell me what will happen now? What I will do next? I have y1, I have y2. What should I do next? I have y1, I have y2. What should I do next? Apart from changing the slide. Yes, Arti, what?
So
Yes.
Ajit is taking add.
Yeah, very good. Why add? They are in the same direction. No doubt. They are moving in the same direction towards the point P only. So by superposition principle, I will add them. I take the resultant of that. Now see, don't get confused. When I'm talking about this equation y1, I am taking as if the source S1 is independent of S2. I'm not considering the effect of S2. I'm just considering the two sources separately. Now, in order to consider their effect, what I will do? I'll use the superposition principle. Simply, I will just write y equals to y1 plus y2. Plus sign I explained due to the same direction of the two waves. Substitute the values of y1 and y2. Okay, yes, there's a mistake here, I think. Typing these equation things, you have to change it many times. So maybe I must have forgotten to change here. Yeah. So this is y1, this is y2. Now this thing looks very complicated. How to simplify? First, you have to take e to the power I omega t common. It is present in both the terms. I won't be going too much into this thing today. We don't have much time. I think you all are familiar with this formula. X to the power a minus b. It can be written as x to the power a into x to the power minus b. I think you all know this formula, indices. Or better if I write this as plus, it would be more clear, because the same formula can be also written as x to the power a minus x to the power b. Okay. You know this formula, everyone? This one? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
That is what we have done here. This e to the power I omega t minus kx1 can be written as e to the power I omega t into e to the power minus I kx1. So this thing I have kept here. So the next step would be the last talk for the day. So here what I have written in the next line, e to the power I kx1 I have written as cos kx1 minus I kx2. This is the Euler's formula that I told you all to learn. E to the power I theta is written as cos theta minus, sorry, plus I sin theta. Actually, the general formula is e to the power plus minus I theta is this plus minus this. That means if it is plus, here you will get what? Cos theta plus I sin theta. If it is e to the power minus I theta, you get cos theta minus I sin theta. Okay, that is Euler's formula. Euler EULER, Euler's formula. Okay, so this formula is very important. So in the next class, we will just go more into the calculations. If you have any doubt, you can put forward. Any doubt, anything? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. So, okay, so that's all for the day.